centric Nigerian interested as to how do we move this country forward. So we're going to continue with this, and then hopefully at the end of the period, be able to have some kind of summaries, the kind of summary we're going to have today, high points, highlights, and then we can then decide what to do with those summaries and which points to take as a platform or not. So, for example, you can have somebody on this platform that, in our opinion, brought 10 ideas. 8 of them are not so good or not the kind of values that we share. But he may have 1 or 2 extremely good points, very, very valuable points. We'll add them in. That's where we are subjective. But in terms of people's comments, we have no opinion on that. They're allowed to make whatever comments within discretion, within public speaking rules, Chatham House rules. You can make your comments. It's all game. Don't insult anybody. Don't be rude. Don't be whatever. Don't let there be any bad conversations or whatever. But opinions are welcome. We then reserve the right as ALG to decipher the opinions, to sift them out, and to say this best represents our position as ALG. So we're looking for ideas, we're looking for information, we're looking for participation, we're looking for people who have views and opinions as to how they think, in their own opinion, we should move Nigeria forward. So we're going to continue with this and continue to decipher the opinions and then make them available to the public, either by way of synthesized and summarized television programs or YouTube programs or Zoom programs, maybe by way of manuals and coffee table books and so on and so forth, and even be able to use some of the material as representation to government. Whatever government is in power, these are the steps we think you should take in telecom, these are the steps you think you should take in education, these are the steps we think you should take in power, based on the opinions that we have gotten on this platform. It's largely advisory. The information is also available if there be any one of us who finds himself or herself in government of governance and therefore needs a repertoire or information or a library of different kinds of things that they can use in their office, and they are part of the ALG platform. Okay, so that is that about that. The second thing that we're going to be driving is what we call community development. Community development. And that has 3 or 4 angles that it wants to approach. Number 1 is just to educate people, inform them, advise them, tell them what is going on, get into their minds, into their brains, and give them information that's not available to them. Community development, especially on how and what to expect from government, how to challenge government, how to get government moving, how to analyze government performance. So, for example, how do you analyze the performance of your community leader? How do you analyze the performance of your senator, of your House of Rep member? How do you analyze the performance of your local government chairman, of your councillor, of your governor, and of course, of your head of state, whoever that is? So there's that engagement in community development. The second is to empower community by empowering the locals in the community and encouraging them to be the best that they can be, working in that community and using the local resource of the community. So, for example, in my father's village, the women do a lot of palm oil, I beg your pardon, palm oil. So how do we get more women inside that bracket? Or how do we enlarge the businesses of some of the women who are already doing this? So there's something local to each community. A lady told me the other day that in Jos area, they have a lot of blackberries and strawberries and all sorts of temperate fruit, apples, and things like that. But the only problem that they have is that there's no government encouragement for farmers to develop this. produce. So part of our community engagement is to see what we can do to empower farmers, to make it easier for them to do their work, make storage available for them, and so on and so forth. So that's part of community engagement, to empower members of that community and to strengthen them. Of course, number 3 is to do some quick fix infrastructure interventions, a borehole there, solar power there, fixing of this, fixing of that, fixing of the other, seeing how we can help the community develop and empower itself. And then number 4 is to do a community potential analysis. What is the potential of this community? What are they best at? What can they do? What value do they bring to the table? And how can we best advise government to support them, or even bring in private sector to develop what they have? So you go to a community, we discover that they have very good tourism. How do we get the tourism activated and people invested in it? Or they have minerals that is lying waste. How do we attract investment into those minerals? Or they have a lot of agricultural land where they're not even bothering with how do we encourage people to work hard in that community and develop the resource. For example, I went somewhere in Kogi many years ago. I saw granite and marble growing virtually out of the road, out of the sand. How do we get granite and marble companies to come to that site and partner with the local community to develop that place? So that is community development, okay? Education, empowerment, infrastructure, and engagement. How do we engage the potential of that place? Then leadership development. So while we're trying to build up capacity with our community development at the local level and empowering the people, what do we do? First of all, with people who are already in government, leadership, and in politics, how do we educate them? How do we reorientate them? How do we best empower and upskill them for the jobs that they have taken? So we're coming up with programs for people already in office. What do we do to make their work better, to give them more information, to educate them, plus and including tours of different other similar places and what they're doing? So that's number 1. Number 2, people who want to get into leadership and politics. What do you need to know? How do you run your campaign? What do you need to know about the politics of Nigeria, the history of Nigeria? What are the ways by which you can grow in government? What kind of character do you need to have? What kind of mindset? Blah, blah, blah. We give guides as to people interested in going into politics or leadership. Then number 3 of that is to leadership recognition. How do we encourage leaders that are doing very well and discourage or comment or make our views known on leaders that are not performing? So are we going to be having leadership gifts, leadership prizes at different levels to encourage those who are leading well? And then we can call out those who are not doing well and let them know that we are watching, we're interested, and so on and so forth. So leadership recognition in that area. To encourage those who are doing well, to comment or chastise those who are not doing well, to also raise up a set of mentors for the young ones that are coming. Then number 4 area that we're going to be concentrating on in ALG is diaspora engagement. And this is very large. A lot of countries have been developed, China, Singapore, Malaysia, and even India inclusive, by the power and the force of the diaspora. Them coming together, raising resources, sending it back home, sending back technology and technical know-how back home, giving up themselves to make sure that their communities don't fail. So we're going to find a way of harnessing, working with, engaging different groups in the diaspora, either as a group or as individuals or as a collection or a collective. The whole idea is to get the diaspora involved, to get them engaged, Mr. Ogukwa, can you put your device on mute, please? Thank you. Thank you for coming on the program. So how do we engage the diaspora? How do we get them involved? How do we also help them to manage their affairs in Nigeria, either individually or collectively? How do we help them manage their introduction or reintroduction into the society, either on a short-term basis for holiday, or on a long-term basis, they wish to relocate back home? So that's the whole idea of diaspora engagement. And how do we get them to raise monies and funds to support the change that they desire in Nigeria? So this is where we are on ALG. This is our focus, this is our direction. And we're hoping that this platform will attract as many like-minded people as possible who would like to be part of this platform, to be part of working in any of these groups, to be part of the donor group, to be part of the ideas group, to be part of the information group, and to be part of building, indeed, a great Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to me. We'll take any questions at the back end during the question and answer time. And I like to think that the back office is ready, or maybe Jumoke is ready, and she can chip in a few things and further explain exactly what we're trying to do and help us with the reviews of the last few years. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you, sir. And good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning to those of you in different time zones. I'm just going to go over some of the programs we had at the beginning of this year, the first half of the year, and some key takeaways that have now brought us to some initiatives that Mr. President spoke about. So we started the year off with General Olusegun Obasanjo on January 12th. And it was on leadership and nation building. This is just before the elections and the need for us as Nigerians to understand what choosing the right leadership meant to the progress and advancement of Nigeria. And he took us through that. It was probably one of our well-attended sessions. We had 1.2 thousand people view it on YouTube, and that was on January 12th. That's when the NLS reopened after the holidays. And then January 12th, we had Professor Remi Shonaya, who was a former presidential candidate. And she really took us through the challenges of women in politics and part of her experience and how she was really advocating for more inclusion for women in leadership. And also she talked about the support she also got from other women and just inspired the involvement, collaboration, and allyship for women in politics. Then we ended the month, January, with Professor Jega. And again, as we were preparing for the elections, we all know who Professor Jega is. He was the former INEC chairman, and he really laid the groundwork for what INEC was doing and the reforms that really gave us hope that this was going to be a more credible elections. The structures were in place. He had really worked with the INEC team to put a good structure in place for the electoral process. So that's what we had on January 26th. Then we started February again in search for this, for the right leadership for Nigeria. But we also wanted to understand what our role as citizens were, what we need to understand to be able to select the right leader. So we had the manifesto review by the three major parties, APC, PDP, and Labour Party. And they just really took us through what their plans were for Nigeria. I don't know that most of us came out of that more informed about who we're going to vote for. And then that was the 2nd of February. Then the 9th of February, the global implication of the Nigerian elections. We have some of our friends, the former state assistant secretary under Trump, Professor Bob Destro, and Kyle also came to speak to us about the global implication of the Nigerian elections. And one key takeaway for me from that conversation was our role, that help wasn't going to come from anywhere else. It was we Nigerians that needed to build our nation. And then we would get support or collaboration from the international community, but we needed to own it. We needed to champion the rebuild of Nigeria. And then the following week, we had State of the Nation and the Implication for the 2023 elections by Sheung, who is with Budget. Sheung, the organization kind of does an expose of the different, the funding and almost what the governments are doing with the funds that they have. And so Sheung took us through that. And but he also talked about what we should be expecting. He had also done some review of the different manifestos from the different parties. So he took us through that. Then on the 23rd of February, we had Mr. Chairman again speak on what we as Nigerians selecting the right leader. He was very passionate about expressing the need for us to go to the polls and elect the leadership that Nigeria needs. And that was the key word, select. What were the criteria? He laid out the criteria for the right leadership that Nigeria needs at that time. And before that, ALG, we had also developed a leadership assessment tool that we shared on this platform. We sent it out in the hopes that now becomes something that helps inform us before we go to the polls to critically look at the qualities of the leader that we cast our vote for. That was on the 23rd. And the topic of that was a new Nigeria. The components of a new Nigeria was very well discussed. We were all engaged in that conversation. And March 9th was Nigeria Speaks. We had a similar session like this, which was an open mic. And we all came together, and this was after the elections, and we spoke. There was a lot of pain, I would say pain, and we summarized that. And at the risk of reading it out to you, we'll post it on the platform. We summarized the key takeaways from that March 9th, similar stakeholders meeting where we all opined on what was going on and the way forward. So we'll be sharing that on the platform. Then the week after that was, we had with Umar Yakubu. Umar Yakubu is with Center for, he's with Center for, can't remember, CWC, Center for Financial Crimes. He's a data science and criminal justice specialist, and he took us through some of the work that he's been doing. And Umaru this was on the 16th of March. He was also very, he was objective about the challenges that we have as Nigerians in really selecting the right leadership for the country and our role as Nigerians in the process. And then the following week was March 23rd, we had Building a New Nigeria, What is Next? The elections are over, and this was with Mr. Bayo Adenekon. Again, he also emphasized the need for us to come together as Nigerians, look forward and work together. Then we had another open mic on the 30th of March. Now, we know a lot of things had been happening throughout the election process. And so we again had an open mic similar to this, and where and that session was really more on the, I think the pain and the dissatisfaction with the electoral process, and also came out of there with hopes of, like really seeing that new Nigeria and believing that there is a judicial system that would right wrongs. And we encouraged everyone to kind of keep hope alive. And then on April 6th, we had Pa Adebanjo, who was another phenomenal speaker. And I think that was a session that kind of gave us background, where we are and the way forward. And most of us were really inspired by the fact that at his age, he was still very involved in building that new Nigeria. He was still very passionate about it. And we took some key takeaways, and that was also Mr. President's birthday. Then the following week was April 13th, deepening the process for a new Nigeria. We had our own Pastor Tayo, who is like a strategist at ALG and also the director of training, take us through what we've been doing with ALG. It was almost like at a glance. And we also have Pastor Tayo come up and add to part of what we've shared today. Then on April 20th, we had Professor Adenike Grange also come on to speak on the Nigeria, building a new Nigeria. She also, the topic was nation building and governance, and she used her experience to talk about, lessons learned and what we could gain from some of those not so favorable experience, but how we could improve on it going forward. And then we had Dr. Dere on April 27th, and the topic was on, the topic was again nation building and communal roles and responsibility. That was another very powerful session that spoke about we as citizens, our role in nation building. And that led us to developing the Citizens Responsibility course at ALG, because we as citizens, through all these sessions we had, there were talks about constitution review, the electoral process, the Electoral Act, and we found that we didn't have enough civic education, generally speaking, to really make informed choices and be involved in the nation building process. So that's how the Citizens Responsibility course was developed and born, that it becomes the fundamental or basic tools that we as Nigerians need to be engaged in this nation building process, whether it is as the electorate or as those vying for political office. So we'll be talking more about that as time goes on, throughout this process. Then we had Professor Olupono on education and national development. Again, similar to what to all the series that we've had on the platform, the importance of education at the core of national development, building a strong educational system for Nigeria. And then on May 19th, I think we had an explosive session with David Hondein, and he's one of the youth that has been a strong advocate, support for accountability, really holding our political leaders accountable. And he spoke about what he has been doing and how he has also been using his position to kind of highlight some of the ills of the political class and what we as Nigerians can also do to hold them accountable. June 1st, which was just last month, We had Professor Farouk Abbas. Also, Mr. President spoke about the local government initiatives that ALG is that we're working on, and some of those will also be collaborating with people like Farouk Abbas on some of the information that he shared to build our pilot projects. Then we had, I think, Dr. Honorable Ayo Akinfe follow him. Again, Ayo is also a very brilliant writer. He spoke about what we should be expecting from this new administration, what we as Nigerians, what we should expect based on what is on ground. And then the following week, which was June 15th, we have participatory governance with Dr. Bolanle Olafumiloye. And I think she really took us through what Ondo had done, some of the empowerment programs that the Ondo state government had done under Governor Mimiko and the success rate. And it is something that we are hoping we can use as a template for some of the local government initiative that we are discussing. It was very successful. And I think one of our struggles at that time was, why wasn't every state in Nigeria doing what Ondo had done? Because she talked about the success rate and the impact that was made. And that participatory government was not just the government coming up with an initiative, but getting buy-in from all the stakeholders, whether it was the traditional leaders, whether it was community leaders. She really took us through that. And so that she's another person that we'll be collaborating with on our local government initiative programs. And then we had education, nation building, the power of education by Mrs. Bumi Ajani Lawson. Again, this was an expose on the educational systems in Nigeria, the educational structure, and where there was really room for improvement, and how important it was for us to fix for educational reforms in Nigeria. She took us through that. And we had the Japa syndrome with Victor Lutenko with UN International Organization for Migration. It's no news that maybe I don't even know what percentage of the youth or people have jackpot from Nigeria, and what that means to us as a country, what it also means to the host country, that end up absorbing some our citizens, and also just some of the challenges that those jackpot end up with in those countries that they jackpot to. But how can we soften some of the blows for them, working with the International Office of Migration? So there were a lot of ideas that was shared on that. And then I think it was last week. Yes, last week we had education reform with Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo. And it built on some of the conversations we've had on education reform. Mrs. Folashade Adefisayo was the former commissioner for Lagos State. And she talked about her struggles, also her successes, and just what passion and commitment to the cause as an individual, what that means and how it can really change. That was one key takeaway for me, her resilience and her commitment to really pushing for good education reforms in Lagos State and the results of that. So that was quite inspiring and encouraging that, yes, as individuals, in whatever position we find ourselves in, we can make a difference and we can begin to chart the course for change and making Nigeria great again. So that's my summary, and I'm going to yield to my colleagues on the management team to please add to it. Pastor Lou, if you want to add to that, please. And then Pastor Tayo. I kind of went through that in a flash. Pastor Lou, do you have anything to add to that? Okay.
Yes, I don't know whether you mentioned Olusegun Onibinde when he spoke about the state of the nation and the implications for the 2023 elections.
Yes,
I don't know whether you mentioned it because I was in and out during my internet was fluctuating.
Yes.
I think you've by and large captured almost all the people we had this year so far. Umar Yakubu spoke about building a new Nigeria, and then we had Mr. Bayo Adenekon, also a development consultant and a member of the public affairs of the APC presidential campaign. He also spoke about building a new Nigeria. We had a series, we've had a wonderful series this year, and they've been inspiring, they've been educating, and they've been a source of information and education. And I think by and large, ALG has done a very good thing in these aspects. And as our founder has said at the beginning, he has listed what we are about and what we are doing. And my own addition or contribution is just to solicit more for collaboration, support, and commitment from members, and the need also to be an ambassador of ALG wherever you go. Tell people about what ALG is all about. And like I used to say, nation building is a collective effort. We keep doing it again and again and again until we are able to achieve the nation that we truly desire. If all of us are committed, if I clean my house, clean my gutter, clean the space in front of my house, and everyone else also do that, the nation or the community will be cleaner and better for it. So I want to encourage everyone on the call today, talk to at least 2 or 3 people, invite them to come and experience what we are experiencing here, and not just to do the talk alone, but to do what, not just to listen to what we are saying here, but to do what we are learning and ensure that we hold our leaders accountable. We ourselves do the right thing. We insist on others doing the right thing and ensure that we have a better nation. Thank you very much. I'll yield the floor again to our colleague to put in 1 or 2 words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Faye. Thank you for projecting those 2 events that I missed in May, which was with former Governor Sherima, and also the youth engagement. One of the things that we're also looking to do is engage more youth in this process. So we've sent out invitations to youth. We've had a few of them on this platform, but we're looking to engage them more because really the future of Nigeria is in their hands, and we want them to be empowered. We want to collaborate with them to make sure that it is a Nigeria that we build, that it's an enabling environment for them to thrive. So we are also on that quest for collaborating with youth, and we had the deputy president for the National Youth Council join us. And so we are also in conversation with them on what areas that we can collaborate with them on. Pastor T, do you have comments? And then Pastor Sonny is in as well.
Right. Thank you very much. And thank you, Pastor Lou, for challenging all of us. I think for me, I want to encourage all patriots on the platform, like we've said, to influence and encourage others to be part of this. The more we are, the stronger we will be, and the more impact we can. One of the key threats for us, and of course we have a new media platform called Threads, is nation building. And I just want to give us a capsule of the essence of nation building. And then I'll also talk a little bit about the civic responsibility course, which we still need more people interested to register. Nation building is a complex process, and it's also an emerging process that involves the creation of political, economic, security, technology, environment, and social institutions. It is a process of constructing a national identity based on defined national values. And I think it's important for us. We did a value survey, and we still will post it again. We want to be data-driven. We just don't want to talk about opinions alone. We live in a world where data speaks, where evidence-based decision-making must guide both our political, public service leaders, and also private sector leaders. And so when we talk about nation building, it is a process, the first foundation, and I think Professor Adekoya mentioned it when he was talking about constitution. We cannot build a high tower on a faulty foundation. So we must understand that national identity, constructing and structuring a national identity based on defined values is critical for us. And so we want to encourage you to participate in that national values survey we're doing. We all know that there's a national orientation agency which has been inactive. And actually there's also a national ethics policy where they identify some key national values. But all these things are not being implemented. So one of our goals, as we have a discourse here on Nigerian Leadership Series, is to see how to consolidate what are our values as a nation, so that you and I, our children, our grandchildren can know what we stand for. Also, if you look at nation building, also includes genuine self-discipline and commitment. And that is important, not only for us who are on the platform, but we must all be advocates of self-discipline and commitment. We must encourage it among our youth. Next is we must foster creation of effective governing institutions. And I think Pastor, our chairman, mentioned that we must hold institutions accountable. We must follow the money. There's a lot, our problem in Nigeria is not resources. Our problem is the stewardship of those resources. But the real key root of that problem is that citizens have been passive. We're not active enough. We're not aggressive enough. We're not intentional enough. We speak a little, we make a little noise, and then we keep quiet. And the perpetrators of the mismanagement of resources just continue, because their perception is, yes, we will make a noise, and after a while, they'll keep quiet. So they keep doing what they need to do. We need to move off from noise making or talking to real action, to mobilizing protest, to signing online petitions that would make people know that we mean business and we know that we're going to effect change, not start a process of change and not follow it through. Thirdly, we must consider the cultural match. You know, one of the things that is important in building nations is the culture of the nation. We're a nation with diverse cultures. And so we must not exclude any culture. We must be able to accommodate the cultural mix, the diversity. And I think we had, last year, we had Mrs. Oyegun talk to us about diversity, the importance of culture in nation building. And so it is important for you and I as advocates and as patriots to continue to, accommodate other cultures, understand that we are all one in all. Lastly, the citizen responsibility course that we have developed is to help all of us. Pastor mentioned, and I think Sister Jumoke also mentioned, that we have insufficient education on civic education. Sometimes we assume a lot, and assumptions are very costly. even one of my very favorite stories is imagining the parents of Jesus, assuming he was on the bus, and then later on they found out that he was not there, and they had to go back and look for him. So we don't want to live on assumptions, and we've done that enough in the country. So the citizen responsibility course, we're going to, roll as many cycles as possible. We have partners who have partnered with us, and we want to ensure that we inform you, we instruct, we give you insights and empower you about what are citizens' responsibilities. What is your responsibility as a citizen? How can you be involved in the acts of development and growth in the country which we are? Citizen responsibility is important because it creates an opportunity for you and I to know what our rights are, how to exercise those rights, and how to effect policy changes that really add on to the value of nation building. Citizen responsibility is also an opportunity for you to be able to identify what your contribution is going to be in nation building. And lastly, it makes it joyful for all of us to know and work together. It builds unity. When you and I are fully involved and fully informed about our responsibility, it makes it easier for us to work together so that we would not be living under false assumptions and biases. So I want to encourage all of you. We're determined to walk a path, a new path for the nation of Nigeria and beyond Nigeria onto Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And before I hand over to Mr. President, I also just want to let everyone know that we've had quite a lot of people express interest in engaging with ALG from January to this point. We've had about 162 people complete the form. So thank you for all those of you that have submitted forms and have been engaged. We've also reached out to some of you that have been interested in the T3, which is the technical think tank that will be working with the management team as we expand our work on ALG. So many thanks to those of you. The letters will be coming out this week. So we just wanted to have that first half of the year in review and then the next half. But as stakeholders, we feel it's important to get your input, your thoughts. We are in this together. Some of us may be behind the computers, admitting people and speaking, but we can't do this without the collaboration and involvement of every single one of you. So this is a forum for us to share thoughts on what the second half of the year is and how can we collaborate to make sure that the vision is expanded and that we achieve what we have set out to achieve. So I'll hand it over back to Mr. President if he has any comments or he wants us to continue to open the floor now.
I think we should just open the floor.
Okay.
I think you all have spoken very, very well. The summary has been very succinct and straight to the point. We've clarified what we want to do. I see Femi Olowe has his hands up. iPhone has their hand up. So we want to take their comments, note those comments, respond to their questions, whoever they are asking, and then hopefully be able to then chart a way forward, especially what we want to do for the remaining half of the year, and how we're going to do our community engagement, how we're going to do our leadership training, the sort of money that we'll be needing to raise, if people have any ideas on how we can raise this money and so on and so forth, so that we can really get going and achieve as much as we can in the time that we have. Time flies, and before we know it, the year will be over and we'll be wondering what happened. But we need to get going, and we need to raise quite a bit of money to do some of these things. Thank you. God bless you all.
Mr. Olowe, please go ahead with your comments or your question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mrs. Jumoke. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. President. Okay, first, I really want to talk on the weekly membership joining the call. I want to say that the way to get that in the best way is we need to have a central number. At least not everybody on the platform today might probably have Pastor Olu Victor's number. And I think the weekly invite, it's a good one. So I think any member who has already talked to his friends, his colleagues, and they are willing to join, we should have a central number where we forward the numbers of those people to, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 central numbers. We forward the numbers of those people to, and then on a weekly basis, they can be part of the recipients of invites. That's on one side. And I could remember during the think tank session, the meeting we had, I talked about having an affiliation with United Nations. I think one of the ways to best get recognition is to start with that. We need to have an affiliation with them. That recognition will be global. It will not be sectional. It will not be regional. And also, as President has said that we cannot afford to be partisan. I agree, but then how can we not be partisan is by not necessarily getting funding from the government, and also by letting them know we have the vision and the mission statements, we have the strategies. They need to know that, yes, like President also said, that the comments, people are responsible for their comments, not the ALG, not the NLS. So our people, our audience need to know, the world needs to know that whatever comment is made, either by invitee or by the resource person or the members, the responsibility is owned by the person who spoke, so that we will not be quoted like this. And I also want to say that our achievements, we need to be taking note of them. I can tell us 1 or 2 achievements. Precisely a year ago, I remember that the Deputy Governor of Lagos was on this platform, and we talked about the population census, population of Lagos, and voter registration, voter population in Lagos. And 2 months, and he agreed with us. If we go and go through the video, he agreed with us. Barely 2 months to 3 months thereabout after, Lagos emerged. Lagos went from 3.54 million voter registration to 7, from 7 to 9, 9 to 11, leading the entire country today. So it is part of our achievement, and we need to be able to itemize some of this, maybe biannually or annually, and let it be part of what is on our page. Again, so as not to take our time too much, our weekly program is good. The people we're inviting, yes, they are okay. However, we don't want the government of the day to see us as being partisan, because, we will not want to be attacked. And, a lot of people are agents that are working freelance for the government. Nobody may sponsor them, or they may be sponsored, but then you will not know that it's coming from anybody. So we now have to be careful and let them know, maybe probably having a disclaimer that this is what we have for, so that at any point in time, bringing anybody on the platform, and a lot of people are joining, and it's also making the round of the news, nobody will think or will imagine that we are partisan. And that is the reason why we brought so person of this view that is against the government. The last point is, we also talked it when we were doing our think tank meeting. We need to reserve probably 1 out of 4 weeks in every month to talking the policies of government. And what I think we also need to stand for is, like President said, is being able to advise the government. We can't sit on the fence one. We can't be throwing tantrum or throwing stones at them. We just need to work with them. We just need to work with the government. So we need each policy. For example, now there is a 500 billion naira loan that is being approved, and is going to be disbursed for 12 million families, for 6 months, if you multiply all together, you get 578 billion. So the deficit of 78 billion, where is it coming from? What is the best way to allocate these funds? So we need to be bringing policies on the platform, and we talk about it maybe once in a week. So if I remember other points, I will state them. Let me just stop now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Ologwe, for those very important and insightful points that you have raised. Faye, please take note of the disclaimer we have on the email, so we'll put that also in our advertisement, and that's something that we will project before each meeting. So thank you, really appreciate that. May I have Mr. Bayo, please go ahead and speak. You're muted.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for calling me. I really appreciate this group, and I really just have 2 points to make. So thank you so much. Number one is talking about national development. I think that there are some indices that we probably are missing out, or that probably need to take note of if really we must have the change and the development that we so desire in Nigeria. And that brings me to the point of the recently concluded election. And you would notice, or you agree with me, that all over the world, people have commended the youth in Nigeria, talking about level of registration, new registrations, the percentage of youth voters that we have in this concluded election, and even the level of activity that we have, talking about social media and other digital media platforms that were used, in campaigning actively for the election. So that brings me to my point of, youth engagement. And I think that ALG as a group should be seriously considering how to engage the youth in terms of getting them to make positive contributions to Nigeria. Even as of today, over 66%, if my data is correct, is of the population are youth, and even a large population of people that voted in this concluded election are also people who have just first-time voters. And what do I mean? The politicians that we are talking about, that these so-called politicians, these evil ones are destroying the nations, I think they understand this very well, and they are using it against the nation. And you will see the level of it's very obvious in the level of division that we have in the nation. They've kind of pitched the youth against themselves, talking about Hausa against Yoruba against Igbo and all that. And now the division is so much that anything that comes out, people immediately, put tribal sentiment to it. And I think this is the point where ALG can come in trying to unite the youth and making them know that the agenda is one, regardless of whatever the politicians are saying. These people are just looking out for their interests. So the agenda is one, whether it's a Yoruba man or an Igbo youth or an Hausa youth. What we really want, regardless of who we support, is change and its development. So we need to be talking objectively. What do we see in people? What are the things that we see? And having these hard conversations with the youth, it's a way of spurring development. And how do we do it? Getting attention of youth is through sporting engagements, using sporting events and using sporting platforms, naming it after, individuals who have done well in life, and, using it to promote unity and objectivity will go a long way, in helping ALG and in promoting what we want to do at the end of the day. Another thing that I want to talk about is the fact that, the issue of having mentors and role models in life is, goes a crucial way. And I'll use a personal example here. A few times I'm able to say that, I call Pastor my father. And sometimes when I call him, my wife is always with me. And he says, did you hear what Pastor said? Did you hear what Pastor said? And recently she has been saying, I'll report it to Pastor. I report it to Pastor. And, you know, sometimes when I'm alone, I think about it, that what if she actually calls him and reports me? You know, what will he say to this particular thing that I have done? Even though she has never done it, but I think about it. And the point is that we must be able to project the stories of good people, people who are doing well, people who have the values that we want to see at the national scale. You know, I'm not just saying it because Pastor is the chairman or the president of ALG, but his life is exemplary. And there are so many people like him, you know, that, you know, we probably don't know about just because they are living their quiet lives and they are being quiet leaders. So we must find a way of projecting individuals and projecting values that we want to see at the national scale. We must reward the values we appreciate so that, you know, there is clarity of what we stand for. You know, that is very, very important for me. You know, I think those are the 2 points I would like to make. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much for those insightful contributions. The sporting engagement to promote unity or the youth involvement is something that I think is key. Mentorship program, we're actually working on developing one. So we'll bring you into that at some point. Thank you. Mr. Momodu, please go ahead. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, sure. Okay, thank you so very much. I appreciate that. I greet everyone. I have a comment and a question. I want to quickly speak on the participation and the sustained commitment of the members here following a comprehensive review of the year thus far by our very own Jumoke. And I also want to appreciate the leadership of our president for his dedication and commitment, particularly considering the personality and topic covered in the time in review. That's my comment. The question is, see, I noticed that when you have an organization as reputable as this, considering the caliber of the individual involved and the people that we have experienced here on the platform to speak to us and raise issues to provoke our thoughts, is very sometimes perceived as us against them. And it will look as if we're antagonizing the government. I know that is not the case. If anything, my understanding is that, and also based on the 4 pillars that President highlighted earlier, it is that we're looking to see a better society, and we want to be part of an agent of the society to help the government, you know, to realize that society. So the question here is, how does ALG partner with government in power, irrespective of the party, to synergize our effort here to inform policy formulation and implementation? And which agency of government will that be? And I think such a relationship is critical to discourage dichotomy, which is us against them. That's my question. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate that. We are going to take the next person that has their hand up, and we have Terence. Terence hand is up, and then we have Oluyemisi Susan Oyeumi. Sorry, before that, we have Uluwada Milari. So go ahead, Mr. Terence, ask your question or your comments. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this great opportunity to comment and to also ask questions. Thank you, Mr. President, for the great work and the pace that this organization has been setting. It's been really a wonderful experience seeing that there are people who are passionate about actually building the Nigerian that we want. So I want to make a few comments with regards to youth engagement, and which we probably have been in talks with regards to youth engagement, which is critical to our vision, the ALG vision, and with the CRC cause, the citizen responsibility cause that we have. So looking at this, I also want to touch the area of funding for ALG, as Mr. President mentioned earlier on. We have, first, we need to look at the people we want to reach. What is their state of mind? What are their thought patterns? What are their immediate needs? You know, looking at the youth directly, both from the social media and from the various communities or local government, you see there is this so much hunger among the youth. They want to improve, they want to get better, they want to have legitimate working source of livelihood. And just like my brother mentioned some statistics and data earlier on, we have about 66% of youth, which in numbers, we have about 80 million youths in Nigeria. And out of this 80 million, I can tell you that we have 50 million out of them currently unemployed. This is huge deficit on our side, you know, as a nation. And there is no nation that can grow and actually become great without what we are doing in the ALG, which is actually building the foundation of love. So without love effectively implemented, we cannot actually have a great nation. So we are in the right direction. Everything, the advocacy we have been doing is been superb. And I must say that we are almost there, you know, as African leadership group. But in the area of the engagement, I think we should look at the problem, take advantage of the problem we have right now in the country, which is unemployment. We have large chunk of our youth leaving secondary school, engaging in cyber crimes. The girls are leaving secondary school, engaging in prostitution, which they now call the glorified hookup right now. And we have a lot of other young people who are not even in school, but the ones in the university, they don't really have a sense of direction or a part, you know, that they need to take. And most of them don't even know their responsibility. So that is why I am passionate about the ALG vision, for we to actually, you know, really look at the implementation of youth engagement as an urgent necessity for we to begin to, you know, build that base from every community. So if we have to hold any government or a state government or federal government responsible or accountable for whatever it is that they have put out as policies, then we will know we have a strong, reliable structure that just one call, everybody comes out for a protest to question a particular policy that has been made by the federal government or the state government that is not going in accordance with the people, with the masses. So for we to actually look at, you know, getting the youth activated in a full scale, in a large scale, it will require us to start looking at incentives in the area of this tech skill acquisition. A lot has been done in the country with regards to skill acquisition, but look at it in the realistic sense. How many are benefiting from it? My brother mentioned 500 billion has been approved. The rep has approved it today for the loan. For crying out loud, we are giving out 500 billion to people that are still going to wake up the next morning hungry and looking for what to eat. You know, so I feel that the government at the federal level, some of the time, you know, have misplaced priorities. Why share 500 billion to cushion the effect of the subsidy when you can actually invest the 500 billion into pulling people out of poverty? You know, so we need to leverage on the China model, you know, where they were able to strategically pull millions of their people out of poverty with practical skills and, you know, funding that helped them to build their business and pull even the uneducated ones. You know, they had a lot of uneducated ones in China who could not even read or write. They were all empowered because there were skill programs that were available for them to leverage on in China. And after their skill program, they had opportunity, the qualified ones had opportunity for little funding to start up the little things that they have to do. Now, freedom comes from when a man have a legitimate source of income that could help him to sort his bill on a daily basis. So at that point, they can now take charge of their full responsibility as a human, as a person. So for me, my suggestion is we should look at critically the engagement of these people at every local level and the awareness part of it, which is the PR, because every engagement we are going to be having, for it to be effective and bring us the results that we desire, we need a strong, reliable, effective PR network that can actually do this, carry out this, effectively. And with this, the ALG name will be everywhere in the mouth of every single Nigerian, because we have now been able to narrow down what we are doing at every point in terms of engaging the youth and also cushioning the effect of unemployment. Every 1 hour, about 2, 3, 4 persons, if my data is correct, falls into poverty. And in 24 hours, you can see the number of persons that have fallen into poverty. So we have grown from 130 million people that are living in poverty to about 140 million people living in poverty within a short period of time. So how can we be able to do this? Is by leveraging what other countries have been able to do successfully over time in the area of pulling people out of economic empowerment, creating and making available skill programs that will help these young people who are losing hope and losing faith in their nation to actually leverage on these things, grow, scale, and become productive for themselves. So for me, I would suggest that by the time we are able to have proof, about 3, 4 proofs that is everywhere, that is viral everywhere, where we have been able to use as little as 500,000 to create a startup business, a new company that is functional, working and making profits for the individual, that will help us with enough proof of work to expand our reach or our network for funding. My brother mentioned United Nations. Yes, United Nations would jump on what we are doing in ALG because we have the structures right, we have the network, we have everything that we need for this international organization to work with us so that we can actually, begin to see through that vision of building a new Nigeria that creates opportunity for everyone to win regardless of their background. And I said regardless of their background because we live in a diverse nation with several ethnic groups, with several tribes, and we are always being used as a tool during election. That is when they remember, oh, he's an evil person. That is when they remember, oh, he's from Yoruba. Oh, that's when they remember that he's from the Fulani region, or he's an Hausa. So it is only when it's politics that we get divided. But after politics, we are all united as one Nigeria, one people. That is why we have people doing business with the Yoruba, Hausa, and there will never be an issue until it comes to the issue of leadership. Who's going to be in that position? So leveraging skill programs and business and economic empowerment will help us to further unite the young people across all geopolitical zones and better pass the information for we to have our citizens, be aware and also have to know and understand their citizens' responsibility and their citizens' right. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for those insightful contributions. I appreciate. So I'm going to have we have 3 hands up. Oluwadamilare, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, good evening, good day, everyone. My name is Israel Oluwadamilare, and I'm a proud Nigerian youth, and I'm so privileged to be here. even though this is my first time on this platform. Yes, I just simply want to buttress on the youth engagement because being a youth, I think I understand the plight of we, the youth of Nigeria, especially when we see that our counterparts in different countries doing well for themselves and seeing all these places developed. And we as Nigerians, especially Nigerian youths, are still finding it difficult to grow despite our ideas, despite our abilities and our skills. And of course, when we see our counterparts, our friends going to different countries and doing well for themselves, we will just be frustrated that what exactly is wrong with us? How can we do this? What can make this country become better? And that's why a lot of Nigerian youths actually just out of out of lack of proper thoughts, they just go into some other things. They use their skill in a negative way. I'm not justifying that we all know is bad. So basically, I just want to suggest some very few things which can actually make the youth to be more interested in this program. Because personally, I put this in on my platform and I told some youths what they could actually benefit from being on this platform. So the very first thing is engaging the youths physically. And how do I mean? Going to various campuses, going to various tertiary institutions, talking to them, hear their feedbacks, listen to what they want to achieve, listen to what they want to do with their lives, counseling them, creating a mentorship program for them, such that they see that yes, this is valuable. They feel more responsible because they will feel they will be helped and they feel the need to also help the generation that will be coming after us. So basically, like I once remembered some time ago when First Bank came to my university and they organized a program where the youth Mrs. Ibukwan Oshika was just talking about business, listening to the ideas of students, and competitions were organized. A lot of things that would just make youth feel among, they feel helped. And the more these things are organized, the more these programs are organized, the more the youth feel like, yes, this is our country, and we must also be among the change that we desire. So basically, organizing physical programs strategically in Nigerian campuses, because I must tell you, a lot of Nigerian students are just focused on achieving their academic excellence and all that. Meanwhile, I believe personally that some things are outside the academic space are worth it, especially within the campus when people do some leadership seminars, they do some leadership and political activities. Some of these things, these are the bedrocks of politics in Nigeria. In fact, I must tell you that even in politics in Nigerian campuses now, a lot of bad things are happening right there because many of them are linked to some bad politicians or the other, and they are getting that negative heritage from the bad politicians already. That's because they cut them first. Meanwhile, the good ones that which I believe this particular group will produce are yet to reach them. So the bad ones, the bad eggs are the ones reaching out to them first. So I am still stressing on reaching out to the youth physically, and of course organizing, just like the previous speaker said, organizing some skill acquisition programs that will make the youth feel empowered. As a Nigerian youth, I want to change. I want to change the narrative. I know how it has always been. Go to school, go to a particular place, get employed. Then there you get your salary, and that's how you live till you die. Currently now, a lot of Nigerians just want to be independent. They want to act like creatives. They want to own their own world. They want to own everything they desire as much as possible, no matter how much or how limited. So the point I'm trying to raise is that every Nigerian youth wants to be empowered and wants to be independent. So giving them skill, for instance, it can be test skills, it can be business skills, it can be creative skills, anything at all. And of course, funding them in any way. I don't know. I of course, in any way the group can do that, funding them, making them feel like it cannot it does not necessarily mean something big. There's something to show that yes, we are sure you're doing, and the little you are doing, you can actually grow big. A lot of competitions are being held, like some I think there is a competition like that called the Next Titan, which I once attended for business owners. So some of these things you always gel up with. such that they will know that some things, some opportunities are inherent in our country, and they can still keep exploring those opportunities. Last Sunday, a business mogul came to the church I attend, and he was sharing some positive insights about Nigeria and how the Nigerian youth can actually do some things that will make this country become better, and not necessarily traveling out of the country. The owner of Just Right is who I'm talking about. Not necessarily traveling out of the country before they can make it. Like Nigeria is filled with a lot of opportunities, and they can exploit. So this kind of programs can be done across churches as well. Churches now are not just focusing on spirituality alone. A lot of things can be done because, of course, we do the little we can, and God will bless whatever we do. So Nigerian youths are waiting for people that will help them. And I believe this African Leadership Group is one of those groups that the Nigerian youths are waiting for. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you very much for those insightful comments. So we need to work on really developing a structure to engage our youth and really have them involved. Thank you for that. I'm going to have Oluwayemisi Susan Oyewumi. Please go ahead with your question or comments, and then we'll have Shatu Alpha.
Hello, good evening. Yeah, my question, I have a very short question. My question is, are there ways or channels that ALG is looking into to market this platform ALG to the community, aside the fact that it's just within the range of people that knows Trinity House or knows PI? Like last week, Friday, I saw something on news on Channels News when it was mentioned, ALG Thursday program was mentioned, and it struck my mind that is a very, very good avenue of pushing this platform or marketing it to a wider network. So are we looking at different means or channels of pushing it out outside the same set of people that will send the SMS? So e.g., you can get a bulk SMS, buy bulk SMS, do adverts on Facebook, something just to push it out to people out everywhere that are outside the box of Trinity House or that knows PI. Are we looking into that? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The Director of Communications is on, so maybe she can speak to some of the strategy that unit has developed, but we do welcome people to join. And this has really been going out by us sharing it to our network. Yes, I'm sure there is a larger communication strategy that is in the works. So Shade can speak to that. Shade, do you want to speak to that? Okay. But yes, it's in the works. Thank you for that. And right now, we're still relying on everyone to please share it to their network, those in your chat groups, your family, friends, every group you are in. Please help promote the platform by sharing to your network. Thank you so very much, Madam Susan, for that comment. And I'm sure maybe when Shade is able, she would respond. Shatu Alpha, please. And it's Pastor Sonny, are you in? Is Pastor Sonny back in? Go ahead, Mr. Alpha, please unmute yourself. I've asked you to unmute. Okay.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Okay.
My name is Shatu Alpha. Thank you so much. Yes, I had so much this evening, and they are all important. This country, as you know, it's been rightly said, we have so many problems in this country. We don't even know where to start. I appreciate Pastor. He talked about community development and then leadership and issues of participating in politics. And I just want to come up on, like, especially we need to, someone has mentioned about increasing the membership of this group. I think it's important because every community will have different peculiar problems, so that if we increase the membership and make it all inclusive, we will be able to address some of these issues at the state levels with the state houses of assembly and the rest. And then the other issue is I had him saying about talking about non-partisan. So this is where my question is coming in. Being non-partisan group, does it mean that those we are going to invite into the group should not belong to political parties? And the other issue is, if we don't belong to political parties, I don't know how we're going to participate in politics. And if we really need to bring the desired change in this country, we need to participate in the politics. We need to be part of it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shatu. We have Professor Grange. Please go ahead, ma.
Do you want us to answer Shatu's question before Professor Green speaks?
Yeah, you can answer the question. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, like she's asking whether people that belong to political parties cannot join the platform. No, what Pastor is saying, that the platform is not partisan, is that we are not created to support any political party, but anybody joining any political party can be a member of African Leadership Group. We accommodate people from different dispensation, different ethnic background, different religion, different political parties. So we are very, very accommodating. We are not judgmental. We don't have political affinity. We are not particular about any religion. We are not particular about any tribe or language or region. We accommodate everybody. Anyone that has good intention for the growth of Nigeria, anyone that has good intention for the growth of good governance and for the advancement of good cause in African society. So we accommodate everybody. So we are not exclusive to any political party. Anybody can join. And what we are also saying is that we encourage people to be partisan in their own political parties. But when we come to this platform, we appreciate everybody's opinion, and we relate with everybody on equal terms and equal status. We don't give preference to anybody, whether you are a male or you are a female, you are a Christian or you are a Muslim, you belong to APC or PDP or a Labour Party. We accommodate everybody, and we give credence to superior argument. I think I'm able to answer your question.
I also would like to comment on the people that attend these NLS programs weekly. We are trying to create avenues where we can get as much people all over the world to join. We've created a simple barcode where anyone can just scan by 5 p.m. every Thursday, and they are connected. So we can share that. You can also share that to your community. If you do, you can do good enough, print it on a plain paper, paste it in your office or in your shop. I mean, just help us spread the word so that in that way we can get more people to participate in this Thursday's program. We'll share that barcode again on the WhatsApp group and also on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Olu and Faye, for those additional comments. Appreciated. Can we have Professor Grange, please?
Thank you, Sister Jumoke. Let me commend everybody who has contributed to, first, the development of ALG, and all those who have been attending the meetings. As we can see, the focus is on nation building and what everybody can do to contribute to building a nation that we can be proud of, that is like the ones elsewhere. I mean, this has been done in other places like India, like the tiger countries, etc. So how do we go about this? Before we can before we can tackle the main problems of this country, I believe that we have the data on multidimensional poverty. Multidimensional poverty is afflicting 133 million of the 200 million people in Nigeria. And what is that? Before, we used to think only of economic poverty. So we thought that if we could just increase the revenue generation in the country, it will take us to developing a nation. But we now know, of course, that even having economic buoyancy does not translate into nation building. For one thing, the corruption, etc., can gulp down all the money that has been made, all the revenue that has been made. So multidimensional poverty now shows us that we need to look at the effect of poverty on various aspects of life: the nutrition, health, education, water and sanitation, power and electricity, peace and security, and the basic needs of life. And we have data on all these, even in Nigeria today. I'm stressing on this data thing because as we all work hard to change the trajectory, we need to know how we are doing. We need to be able to monitor and evaluate what we are doing and find out what the challenges are in the process of affecting those areas, of making progress in those areas. Now, ALG has given us a fantastic model of how to tackle a major problem like nation building, poverty, etc. First of all, by trying to find out how we can improve the quality of in various areas. For example, the quality of individuals. It's individuals that will become leaders of family, at family level, at community levels, and at government level. And then quality of the individuals who are followers. So quality of the electorate has also been talked about. My little speech is actually to sort of try and put all these into the compartments. All these have been said, and it's just to let us know that what we have been doing has been very systematic. And the quality of groups like communities, youths, even I would say that political parties, their qualities, we need to look at them. Because, for example, I believe that, if the parties are not set up in a way to be accountable to their leaders, we are not going to get the right leader emerge, even for us to elect. So the quality of groups, civil society organizations, etc. Then the quality of institutions, which you have also been talking about, the quality of policies. I don't think that we've done enough of that yet. Quality of policies, for example, the policies and implementation and their implementation. For example, the policies that have been on ground before that did not that did not address the main issues of the people, like the multidimensional poverty. How can those policies be upgraded so that they can address these issues that have come up in data terms? And also quality of structures and systems. This was what I tried in my own little way to talk about when I was brought on the platform. That, you know, we always pay a lot of attention to quality of leaders, etc. But sometimes, or most times, it is the systems that are wrong. The systems, the structures, and even going upwards to the Constitution. Of course, to tackle the Constitution takes a lot more. It may have to be looked at when the ALG has been expanded enough to include all those who can actually tackle the Constitution. But definitely the Constitution needs to be tackled.
Yes.
I believe also that, now I've talked about the qualities, the various qualities. I believe that in looking at all these systems, etc., individuals, we can then compare with what is happening at global level, first at regional level, and then at global level. As you have said, mentioned it, but I am just saying this so that we know what we want to compare, you know, and the comparisons to be made, for example, in other parts of Africa, Rwanda, for example, etc. Well, you know, how is it that they are standing out as a model in Africa? Is it because they have included a lot more women in their leadership or whatever? Let us look at that, you know, and women and youth and things like that. So I think I have actually come to the end of this analysis, this brief analysis. And, you know, just to let us know that, of course, we will all talk about various things, but we need to put them in compartments. We need to know really which group of problems we are addressing so as to be able to address the whole at country level. One of the things that I said was that when I came on the platform was that it seems to me that in Nigeria, the way we are constituted means that a lot more can be done at state level than at federal level. And therefore, at state level, we need to find out how we can scale up what has been successful at state level. And ALG has brought on the platform various people who have spoken of their successes at state level. And I think we need to maybe have a niche for that, to look at what is happening really at state level and, of course, local government level.
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma. If we can have, we are coming up on the hour, so would have Mr. Steve Lawson and Professor Akin Fakbunda before we take you again, my brother, Mr. Momodu. So go ahead, Steve Lawson, and then Shade, if you don't mind speaking maybe at the end on the communication efforts and what you need from the members. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Stephen Lawson.
All right, thank you very much, Auntie Jumi. It's a great opportunity. I've heard so many contributions as the case is. Interestingly enough, I've oftentimes said this, even when I discuss with Pastor PI. But a lot of this pursuit has to have a long-term view to it. Part of our challenge in this society is that we oftentimes than not approach very, very terminal issues from a short-term approach. If we're able to create a strategy that is going to focus for the next 5 to 10 years, and that strategy is able to be communicated, that itself is going to help us to see how much we can measure whatever progress we are that is worth celebrating. Nation building is not an overnight affair, because you are dealing with all kinds of centrifugal forces that are going to be working against you. There are people who are benefiting from the corrupt nature of this particular system that are going to fight whatever integrity, focused approaches or innovations or policies that you're going to be proposing. So we have to be very much assured the fact that we are dealing with very major challenging issues. Secondly, all hands have to be on deck. Nobody is going to work for another person. And I appreciate so much of the comments of the youths in the house today. And because the Nigeria is a youth-centric country, we must be able to integrate the youth in everything that we do, whether in terms of constitutional reforms, whether in terms of communication strategies. The youth today are a particular demography that can help us leapfrog whatever aim we need to achieve. So we need to be able to get the youth involved so much more. Thirdly, the media is key. Public relation is key. Communicating a lot of this whole thing. Thank God we are living in an age that is digital focused. And so we have both social and online platforms that we can leverage on. Nevertheless, all hands have to be on deck. I think this whole task of nation building cannot be left on the laps of Pastor Etua or Sister Jumoke or Pastor Sonny or Pastor Pastor Ola and the rest of them. Neither can we even leave it on any imam's laps. We must be able to come to the realization that nation building is the responsibility of every single citizen. In this particular forum, we have executives in the corporate world who need to begin to imbibe that culture. And then we look at the time frame in which we have been able to say, okay, in the next 5 years, Nigerians should be able to subscribe to a level of ethics that we respect life, that we respect hard work and honor hard work, but it will be a shameful thing for anybody who has so much wealth that cannot, say that, okay, I have this wealth through enterprise. Because we need to understand that it is an integrated approach. Every single citizen of this country, whether in Nigeria or abroad, contributes to the GDP of the country. It is the cumulative arithmetic of all of that that helps us understand that this is the total GDP of Nigeria, because every one of us contributes to it, whether in terms of enterprise, in terms of tax paying, in terms of entrepreneurship. We all are a part of it. Fourthly or fifthly, the political system, just like Prof had mentioned, needs to be revamped, because 2023 gave us a huge opportunity. A lot of Nigerians seem to feel that they are disenfranchised because they took up a position to say that we want to do right. However, we have a situation whereby the elite, as a matter of fact, the middle class in this country is already going. So we have a situation whereby we have the elite and the bottom of the pyramid. The space between them has become so huge that everybody now, so much more to speak, is being driven by a sense of survivor. That itself is going to be a major challenge. We have to factor that in every considerations that we're doing. And sometimes we fail to realize that we are first human beings before we are Hausa, Ijaw, Yoruba, Fulani, Ibibio, or whatever it is. And so the Western world is better than we are because they understand the place of thought leadership. They understand the place of social social engagement. They understand the place of psychological analysis. All of this has to be put into the whole potpourri of which we are trying to cook a meal that will benefit everybody. We all can't be rich. Nobody wants, not all Nigeria can be rich, but every Nigeria should have a right to the barest minimum of sustenance because it's the value of life.
Yes.
And so ALG itself is not in a competition with any NGO or any other organization. And so there is a need for us to be able to build an ecosystem of people who share the same passion. So ALG is doing well in his own space. I think the young man mentioned earlier on that on the news media, there was a mention of ALG. There is so much ALG can do. So we must be able to create a force that is far beyond ALG and then find a way where we can collaborate to push this whole agenda. And Jumoke, this is my position. We're in 2023. By 2024, what should we be discussing? What achievements should you have made? By 2025, where should we be? So we must have that long-term agenda. If not, we are going to just obviously parabolate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that's one of the reasons we are having that. So we have 8 minutes left. We definitely have to close by 7 because of another program. So I apologize. I'm going to take Mr. Fakunda. And if you don't mind, if you could keep it to a minute, and then I'll take Juliet and then Electoral College. And then if we still have time, Mr. Momodu, I'll take you. So please go ahead, sir, Mr. Dr. Fakunda.
Okay, thank you very much. Very quick questions. How far does ALG want to go? What is the end goal? Nigeria as it is, we can't continue. The governors have become senators. They also making effort to become ministers. We haven't got the time. Our problem is the structure of Nigeria. The system has to be dismantled somehow. That should be our main target. What will I say, therefore? Can ALG set up a panel to work out strategy that we can push to bring a change to the governance system of Nigeria? 2 days ago, I was on AIT for about 30 minutes. My views are already articulated in that appearance on AIT. I will humbly request that members of this house, I've just posted the intervention on AIT. I posted the video of it on the platform. Let us study it and determine what really is our problem, which is structure, which is system. The idea we can set up a panel to start thinking about it holistically, the better. Else, all we are doing is just talk shop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Kunle, can I have you for like a minute, please? If you don't mind. Go ahead, Kunle. Unmute yourself.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to speak here. My name is Kunle Lawal. ALG has a direction to improve the country. In my few 44 years, I'll just run across the issues I've seen within the system. And I've spanned the system from politics, governance, and different other parameters. First and foremost, the biggest problem in Nigeria is that we do not see ourselves as Nigerians. If we conquer that, then we can begin the healing process. Second, most people say Nigeria has a problem with structure, the constitution. I'll tell you, Nigeria has more corruption laws than any country in the world. Our problem has never been our laws. Our structure is not faulty at any point. If you go through the constitution, the Electoral Act, Nigeria is beautiful. Do we follow it? No. Nigerians have created a culture outside the laws that exist to guide and direct Nigeria to act within their own parameters, and we have all swallowed it. Constituency projects are not constitutional, but we allow them, and it's okay. Thirdly, I also think that within all the things everybody has tried to pull forward. I think we blamed political parties too much. I also had the privilege of working on political party constitutions between 2015 and 2019. I'm saying Nigeria's political party constitutions are sound. They're as good as the Republican or Democratic Party in the US. The issue is the players and not the party. Therein lies the problem. Fourthly, we have tried to invest a lot in the youth. And yes, we are trying to invest in the youth, but we cannot invest in the youth if we do not lead by example. Many of us also think, and this is fifth and closing, many of us think that 2027 is about to start in 2025. I will tell you that the day after elections, after the presidential elections, 2027 has begun, and we will always be behind. The key game in a democracy is not about votes. If you cannot infiltrate political parties and determine who emerges, we will continue to fail in the same circles we have participated. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And then we'll take the very last comment, Mr. Momodu, apologies, we can't take you. We'll take Owoyomi Adebanke. Please go ahead with your very brief comment, and then we'll close. And I'll hand over to Mr. President. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Good evening. I just have a question. I want to ask. Firstly, it's a pleasure to be here. I got invited by a friend. So my question is that I'm female, and talking to most of the female youth, their orientation is always like, you have to get laid before you can achieve something. So I want to ask that, is ALG doing something about this? To reach out to more females to change their orientation, like having this hookup, like glorified hookup, before you can get things done. We need to catch the upcoming generation young, not to allow them graduate into such orientation and having such mentality. Is LAG doing something about that in order to reach out to the larger population of the youth and the upcoming ones? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very powerful question. And yes, it is definitely something that we are looking to work on. And I'm not sure, since this is your first time here, but part of our vision is that reorientation, our value system, what that means. And we have people like Professor Grange here who has been in the space, and what we're looking to do is develop that mentorship model where we can bring the young and the old together, and then there's transfer of knowledge, there is mentorship, inspiration, and then also identifying support systems that we need to help empower the youth. So thank you very much for that. I would really appreciate if you can drop your contact information in the chat group, and then I'll reach out to you. That's a project that is very dear and near to all our hearts here at ALG. So thank you for that comment. Really appreciate you. And then I'm going to hand over to Mr. President now for him to close. And please, again, Owoyomi came because a friend invited her. If you can commit to inviting 5 people on your contact list and follow up with them to join this. This is a conversation for everyone. It's not something that we can do on our own, but collectively we can make a difference and we can change. So I'm going to hand over back to Mr. President. Thank you all for your continued participation here on ALG, and looking forward to a greater second half of the year. Go ahead. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, everyone. We're grateful to God for this evening and how it has gone. The comments, the questions are the most insightful. Faye is compiling all of them so that we can put them together to be part of our working tools and all that. And then from time to time, we'll have sessions like this to review what we're doing and to move ALG forward. Let me thank also the team. They're doing a phenomenal job putting all this together and making all these things happen. Tomorrow we'll be having Bishop Ononoyake on our platform on the Rebuild Nigeria initiative at 5 o'clock. Onayeko, I'm sorry. Onayeko, thank you, Lou, for that. He's going to be here at 5. Quite a lot of people say, Jumoke, that they don't get the link. So I don't know how you're going to make sure everybody gets the link and they can be there. I get people calling me at 4:34 saying they don't have the link for RNI. So let's find a way to get everybody the link so that we can be part of that conversation of building safety and peace and sustainability in Nigeria. It's part of all the effort that we're doing to make Nigeria great again. We need to move very fast. We need to raise money. We need to do things that will have an impact. We need to make our presence felt. We need to begin to put papers together to advise government and whoever is leading Nigeria as to what we have to do. So once again, thank you all very much. God bless you all. Have a wonderful weekend and have a great rest of the day. Bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Please drop your contact in the chat room and we will add you to our WhatsApp. For those of you that have expressed interest, please put your phone number in the chat room and we'll add you to the WhatsApp group. Thank you so much. Faye, if you have the flyer for Friday, do you mind projecting that as well, or just put it in the chat room? Otherwise, we'll send it to everyone here. Thank you all. Have a good night, good evening.
Well done, Jumoke.
Thank you, Malgab. Thank you so much. Thank you for all those that have put their contact information in the group. I appreciate that. We still have time. We'll keep this open until, just make sure we catch everyone and that you're able to put your contact information, and we'll follow up with you and include you on our WhatsApp. You can also put your email address there as well. Yes, Mr. Olowe, ALG does have a WhatsApp group. And if you put I think we have your phone number, so we can go ahead and add you to the WhatsApp group as well. Thank you. So please don't forget to invite someone next week. And then the CRC course, if I put the link to register, we need to increase that. That's starting at the end of the month. And so you will be making history as our first